The sky over New York City turned dark, but it wasn't because of clouds or an approaching storm. A massive object had appeared high above the earth, blocking out the sunlight. It was huge, like a floating mountain made of metal, and its surface shimmered with strange lights that pulsed in patterns no one could understand. People stopped what they were doing. Drivers pulled over on highways, shoppers froze in the middle of stores, and children looked up from their games. Everyone stared at the sky, unsure if this was real or just some kind of dream. News spread quickly across the globe. Phones buzzed with alerts, social media exploded with videos and pictures, and TV channels interrupted regular programming to show live footage of the mysterious object. Scientists scrambled to figure out what it was, but before anyone could come up with answers, a voice boomed through every device capable of producing sound. Radios crackled, TVs flickered, and even car stereos blared the same message. Humans, you will surrender your planet to us. Resistance is useless. The voice wasn't human. It sounded cold and mechanical, as though it came from something without feelings. The message repeated itself in broken English, each word landing like a hammer blow. Panic erupted everywhere. People screamed, cried, or simply stood still, too shocked to move. Governments held emergency meetings, trying to decide how to respond, but no one knew what to do. What could they do? The thing in the sky was clearly far more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen. Amidst the chaos, two people found themselves at the center of the unfolding events. Daniel Carter, a quiet but brilliant NASA scientist, had been working late at his lab when the alien ship arrived. He watched the news unfold on a small television screen, his mind racing. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not now. Not like this. Beside him stood Lisa Monroe, a linguist who specialized in decoding languages. She had been called in earlier to help analyze strange signals picked up by satellites, but those signals suddenly made sense. They were warnings sent ahead by whoever, or whatever, was now hovering above Earth. Daniel and Lisa exchanged worried glances. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "Do you think they're serious?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Lisa nodded slowly. "They don't sound like they're here to negotiate," she replied. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a notebook filled with scribbled notes. "We need to figure out what they want, and fast." As world leaders debated whether to surrender or fight back, Daniel and Lisa were summoned to join a team tasked with communicating with the aliens. Both felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on them. If they failed, billions of lives would be at stake. But there was something else gnawing at the edges of their minds, a nagging suspicion that the aliens might not be as invincible as they seemed. After all, why announce themselves so boldly? Why give humanity time to prepare? Later that evening, Lisa called her younger brother Ethan, a tech-savvy engineer who worked on satellite systems. She explained the situation, leaving out the worst details to spare him worry. But Ethan wasn't easily fooled. "You think there's a way to fight back, don't you?" he said after a long pause. His tone was sharp, cutting through the fear that lingered between them. Lisa hesitated before answering. "Maybe," she admitted softly, "but we'll need help, and a lot of luck." Little did they know, luck was about to play a bigger role than any of them could have imagined. For now, though, the alien ship loomed overhead, casting its shadow over the planet, and humanity braced itself for whatever came next. By the next morning, the world was in chaos. News outlets broadcast endless updates about the alien ship hanging ominously above Earth. People gathered in streets and parks, staring up at the massive object with a mix of fear and awe. The message from the aliens had been clear: surrender or face destruction. But no one knew what surrendering would even mean. Would humanity become slaves? Would Earth be stripped of its resources? Or worse, would the aliens simply wipe out all life? In the middle of this confusion, Daniel Carter and Lisa Monroe were rushed to a secure government facility in Washington, D.C. They weren't the only ones there. Scientists, military leaders, and politicians filled the room, their faces tense with worry. At the front of the room stood General Sarah Bennett, a stern woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper voice. She wasted no time getting to the point. "We need answers," she said, her tone firm. "If we're going to respond to these invaders, we need to understand them. That's where you two come in." She gestured toward Daniel and Lisa. Daniel nodded, though his stomach churned with nerves. He glanced at Lisa, who looked just as uneasy. "We'll do our best," he said, trying to sound confident. Before they could dive into planning, another announcement came over the intercom. "The aliens are sending a representative," the voice said. "It will land in Central Park within the hour." Everyone froze. A representative. What did that mean? Was it a trick? Despite their fears, the group agreed they couldn't ignore the opportunity to meet the aliens face to face. Daniel, Lisa, and General Bennett boarded a helicopter bound for New York City, along with a small team of soldiers armed to the teeth. When they arrived, Central Park was eerily quiet. Crowds had been evacuated, leaving only the eerie hum of the alien ship overhead. Then, without warning, the ground trembled, and a bright beam of light shot down from the sky. When the light faded, a towering figure stood before them. It was at least 12 feet tall, with smooth metallic skin that shimmered like liquid silver. Its head was elongated, and its glowing red eyes scanned the humans with cold indifference. "I am Zixar," the creature said, its voice deep and mechanical. "You have heard our demands. Surrender your planet within 48 hours, or you will be destroyed." General Bennett stepped forward, her jaw clenched. "And if we refuse?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Zixar tilted its head slightly, almost as if amused. "Refusal is not an option," it replied. "Your species is weak, your technology primitive. Resistance will only bring pain." Lisa flinched at the insult, but forced herself to stay calm. She stepped closer, holding up a hand in a gesture of peace. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "What do you want from us?" Zixar didn't answer right away. Instead, it stared at her, its glowing eyes narrowing. Finally, it spoke. "Resources, land, power. You are insignificant. Your existence serves no purpose." Daniel frowned. Something about Zixar's words didn't sit right with him. If the aliens truly believed humans were so weak, why bother negotiating at all? Why give them 2 days to decide? It didn't make sense. As Zixar continued speaking, Daniel leaned over to whisper to Lisa. "Do you notice anything odd?" he murmured. "They're acting like they're invincible, but I think they're bluffing." Lisa nodded slowly. "Maybe," she whispered back. "But how can we prove it?" Later that night, after returning to the facility, Lisa called her brother Ethan again. She told him about Zixar and shared Daniel's theory. Ethan listened carefully, then suggested something bold. "What if we hack into their systems?" he said. "If they rely on advanced tech, maybe we can find a way to disrupt it." Lisa hesitated. The idea was risky, almost impossible, but it was the first real plan they'd had. She glanced at Daniel, who sat nearby, sketching diagrams on a notepad. His brow was furrowed in thought, his mind racing with possibilities. "We'll need help," Lisa said finally, "and time. But if Ethan's right..." She trailed off, a spark of hope flickering in her chest. For now, though, the clock was ticking. Zixar's ultimatum loomed over them, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. The next day, Daniel, Lisa, and Ethan huddled together in a small office at the government facility. Papers covered the table, filled with scribbled notes and diagrams. Ethan had brought his laptop, its screen glowing with lines of code, as he worked on a way to test his theory. The idea was simple but risky. If the aliens relied heavily on advanced technology, maybe humanity could find a way to disrupt it. But how? And would it even work? Lisa leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly. "Ethan, are you sure about this?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed her worry. If we mess this up, they'll know we're trying to fight back. I'm not sure about anything, Ethan admitted, pushing his glasses up his nose. But we don't have many options. If we can figure out their tech's weak points, we might have a chance. He pointed to a map on the screen showing Earth's satellite network. These old satellites, they're outdated, but they still work. What if we reprogram them to send interference signals? Daniel frowned, studying the map. You think we can use our own satellites against them? He asked. Exactly, Ethan said. We create an electromagnetic pulse, a big one. It could knock out their systems, at least temporarily. But we'd need to time it perfectly. If we do it too early, they'll see it coming. Lisa nodded slowly. And if we wait too long, they'll attack first, she added. We need help to make this happen. They decided to bring General Bennett into the plan. She listened carefully as Daniel explained their idea, her expression unreadable. When they finished, she crossed her arms and let out a heavy sigh. It's dangerous, she said, but I don't see another way. If we sit here and do nothing, we're finished anyway. Let's try it. With the general's approval, the team got to work. Ethan focused on rewriting the satellite software, while Daniel and Lisa gathered data on the alien ship. They pored over recordings of Zixer's speech, looking for patterns or clues about its technology. Lisa noticed something interesting. The alien's voice always wavered slightly when certain words were spoken, almost as if its communication system struggled under stress. Could that be a weakness? She asked Daniel, pointing to the pattern on her notes. It's possible, Daniel replied. If their systems are sensitive to interference, even small disruptions could cause problems. As the hours passed, tensions grew. Everyone was exhausted, running on coffee and adrenaline. Outside, the alien ship loomed larger than ever, casting a shadow over the city. News reports showed people panicking, some fleeing their homes while others prepared for the worst. The 48-hour deadline was halfway over, and time was slipping away. Finally, Ethan leaned back in his chair with a grin. Got it, he said. I've rewritten the code. One of the old satellites is ready to deploy a test signal. If it works, we'll know we're onto something. Daniel glanced at Lisa, who gave him a small nod. Let's do it, he said. The team sent the signal late that night, aiming it directly at the alien ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, the lights on the ship flickered. The hum of its engines wavered, growing quieter before returning to normal. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was enough. Lisa grabbed Daniel's arm, her face lighting up. It worked, she whispered. Their systems are vulnerable. General Bennett watched the scene unfold, her lips curling into a rare smile. Good work, she said. Now let's scale this up. We don't have much time left. For the first time since the aliens arrived, there was a glimmer of hope. The team knew the road ahead would be tough. But they also knew one thing for certain. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The team worked tirelessly through the night, fueled by determination and sheer willpower. Ethan's laptop hummed as he fine-tuned the satellite network, preparing it for a full-scale electromagnetic pulse, EMP. Daniel and Lisa stayed by his side, double-checking every calculation and running simulations to ensure the plan would work. General Bennett paced the room, her sharp eyes watching over them like a hawk. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second feeling heavier than the last. We're cutting it close, Lisa muttered, rubbing her tired eyes. If we don't get this right, we're done for. We'll get it right, Ethan replied without looking up from his screen. His fingers flew across the keyboard, lines of code appearing faster than anyone could read them. Just trust me. Daniel leaned back in his chair, staring at the map of Earth's satellite grid. Even if the EMP works, it won't last forever, he said. We need a backup plan. Once their systems go down, they'll try to recover, or worse, retaliate. General Bennett stopped pacing and turned to face them. Then we hit them hard while they're vulnerable, she said firmly. I've already mobilized ground forces near major cities. If those alien scout ships come down, we'll be ready." Lisa frowned. "But what about Zixar? What if it tries to stop us before we can activate the EMP?" "That's why we're keeping this quiet," Daniel said. "As far as the aliens know, we're still debating whether to surrender. They have no idea what we're planning." By morning, the preparations were nearly complete. The team decided to test the EMP one more time, just to be sure. This time, they aimed it at a smaller scout ship that had descended from the main vessel. The ship hovered low over a desert, scanning the area below. When the signal hit, the scout ship shuddered violently, its lights flickering before it crashed into the sand with a loud thud. "It worked," Ethan exclaimed, punching the air. "Their tech is toast when we hit them with this." But their celebration was short-lived. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the facility. A video feed showed Zixar standing in Central Park again, its glowing red eyes blazing with anger. The alien's voice boomed over every communication channel. "You dare defy us?" Zixar growled. "You think your primitive tricks can challenge the Krylos? You are wrong." Daniel and Lisa exchanged worried glances. Had the aliens figured out their plan? Or was Zixar just guessing? "They know something's up," Lisa whispered. "We need to act now, before they adapt." General Bennett nodded. "Deploy the EMP," she ordered. "Full power. Do it now." Ethan hesitated for a split second, then pressed the button. Across the globe, dozens of satellites activated simultaneously, sending waves of electromagnetic energy toward the alien fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, chaos erupted. The massive ship above Earth trembled, its lights dimming and engines sputtering. Smaller scout ships plummeted from the sky, crashing into oceans and deserts. People around the world watched in stunned silence as the invaders' seemingly invincible technology failed. But the victory came at a cost. The EMP also disrupted Earth's own systems. Power grids collapsed, plunging entire cities into darkness. Cars stalled on highways, and hospitals scrambled to switch to backup generators. The team stared at the screens, their faces a mix of triumph and dread. "We did it," Lisa said softly, her voice trembling. "But now what?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Now we wait," he replied, "and hope they don't recover fast enough to strike back." Outside, the alien ship remained motionless, its once imposing presence now eerily silent. Humanity had struck its first blow, but the fight was far from over. The aftermath of the EMP attack was both a victory and a disaster. The alien fleet had been crippled, with their massive ship hovering lifelessly above Earth like a broken machine. Smaller scout ships lay scattered across the planet, some sinking into oceans, others buried in deserts or forests. But humanity's celebration was short-lived. The same electromagnetic pulse that disabled the aliens' technology also wreaked havoc on Earth. Power plants went offline, communication networks collapsed, and hospitals struggled to care for patients without electricity. The world was plunged into chaos. Daniel, Lisa, Ethan, and General Bennett gathered in the dimly lit command center, lit only by emergency lights. The room was tense, the air thick with exhaustion and uncertainty. Outside, people were panicking, some cheering at the sight of fallen alien ships, others terrified by the sudden loss of power. "We've bought ourselves time," General Bennett said, her voice firm despite the weight of the situation. "But how much? And what happens when they recover?" Lisa shook her head. "I don't think they expected us to fight back like this," she said. "They underestimated us." "Maybe they still do." Ethan leaned forward, his laptop glowing faintly in the darkroom. "Their tech is advanced, but it's vulnerable," he explained. "If we keep hitting them with targeted EMP bursts, we might be able to keep them down. But we need to act fast. They're not going to stay quiet for long." Daniel frowned, staring at the map of Earth on Ethan's screen. "We can't just keep attacking blindly," he said. "We need to figure out their next move. What's their endgame? Why are they here? As if on cue, Zixer reappeared in Central Park. Its metallic body shimmered under the pale light of dawn, but there was something different about it now. The alien's usual arrogance seemed replaced by anger, and maybe even fear. Soldiers surrounded the area, weapons aimed at the towering figure, but Zixer didn't move to attack. Instead, it spoke, its mechanical voice colder than ever. "You have made a grave mistake," Zixer said. "Your actions will not go unpunished. Surrender now, or face annihilation." General Bennett stepped forward, her voice steady. "You're in no position to make threats," she replied. "Your ships are grounded. Your systems are down. You're the ones who should surrender." Zixer tilted its head, its glowing red eyes narrowing. "You misunderstand," it said. "This is not over. Not yet." Before anyone could respond, Zixer raised one of its long, metallic arms. A small device on its wrist began to glow, emitting a low hum. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and a faint blue light pulsed from the wreckage of the nearby scout ship. It was trying to reboot its systems. "They're recovering faster than we thought," Lisa whispered, her voice tight with worry. "If they get their tech back online, we're done for." Daniel turned to Ethan. "Can you hit them again?" Another EMP burst. Ethan hesitated, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. "I can try, but it'll take time to recharge the satellites, and I don't know how long the effect will last this time." "We don't have time," General Bennett snapped. "We need to act now." An idea struck Lisa. "What if we use their own tech against them?" she asked. "Those crashed scout ships, they must have power sources. If we can reverse engineer them, we might be able to create weapons capable of taking them down permanently." Daniel nodded slowly. "It's risky, but it could work. We'd need to get close to one of the ships, though." "I'll go," Ethan volunteered quickly. "I know how their systems work better than anyone else here." "No," Lisa said firmly. "It's too dangerous. I'm coming with you." General Bennett considered the plan for a moment, then gave a sharp nod. "Do it," she said. "But be quick. We don't know how much time we have." With that, Lisa and Ethan left the command center, heading toward the nearest crash site, a scout ship embedded in a field outside the city. As they drove through the darkened streets, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The aliens had underestimated humanity once, but they wouldn't make the same mistake twice. When they reached the crash site, the scout ship loomed ahead, its sleek surface cracked and smoking. Lisa and Ethan exchanged a glance before stepping out of the car. They had no idea what they would find inside, but they knew one thing for certain. Humanity's survival depended on what happened next. Lisa and Ethan approached the crashed scout ship cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the early morning fog. The alien vessel was massive up close, its smooth metallic surface cracked and scorched from the impact. Smoke still rose from the wreckage, and an eerie hum filled the air, growing louder as they got closer. Lisa tightened her grip on the flashlight, her heart pounding in her chest. "This is it," Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum. "If we can get inside, maybe we can figure out how their tech works." Lisa nodded but didn't reply. She scanned the area, looking for any signs of danger. The ground around the ship was littered with debris, twisted metal, shards of glass-like material, and strange glowing fragments that pulsed faintly. She pointed her flashlight at one of the pieces. "What do you think those are?" she asked. Ethan knelt down to examine a fragment. "Some kind of energy source," he said after a moment. "It's probably what powers their ships. If we can study it, we might be able to replicate it, or use it against them." They moved closer to the ship, searching for an entrance. The hull was seamless, without any visible doors or hatches. Ethan ran his hands along the surface, feeling for weak spots. Suddenly, a section of the hull shimmered and slid open, revealing a dark interior. Both of them froze, staring into the opening. "Did we trigger that?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Ethan admitted. He hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward. "We have to check it out." Inside, the ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls glowed faintly, casting an otherworldly light over everything. Strange symbols floated in the air, shifting and changing like living things. In the center of the room was a large console covered in blinking lights and controls. Ethan approached it cautiously, pulling out his laptop. "This is incredible," he muttered, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he connected his device to the console. "Their systems are so advanced, but not indestructible. I think I can download some of their data." Lisa stayed by the entrance, keeping watch. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for any movement. The hum grew louder, almost deafening, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. "Hurry up, Ethan," she urged. "Something feels off." "I'm almost done," Ethan replied, his focus entirely on the screen. "Just a few more seconds." Suddenly, the ship trembled violently, knocking both of them off balance. The glowing symbols on the walls turned red, and a loud mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Intruders detected," it boomed. "Eliminate." "Oh no," Lisa gasped, grabbing Ethan's arm. "We need to leave. Now." Ethan yanked his laptop free, just as the console sparked and began to smoke. The two of them sprinted toward the exit, but the opening they had come through was now sealed shut. Panic set in as they looked around for another way out. "There," Lisa shouted, pointing to a narrow corridor leading deeper into the ship. They ran as fast as they could, the sound of heavy footsteps echoing behind them. Whatever was chasing them was big, and getting closer. Finally, they'd reached what looked like an escape hatch. Ethan worked quickly to pry it open, his hands shaking. With a final effort, the hatch burst open, and they tumbled out onto the grass outside. Behind them, the scout ship let out a loud groan before collapsing in on itself, consumed by flames. Breathing heavily, Lisa and Ethan stared at the burning wreckage. "Did we lose whatever was following us?" Ethan asked, glancing over his shoulder. "I think so," Lisa replied. She held up the laptop. "And we've got this. Let's hope it's enough." Back at the command center, Daniel and General Bennett listened intently as Ethan explained what they had found. Using the stolen data, Ethan began designing weapons capable of targeting the aliens' weak points. Meanwhile, Lisa shared her observations about the ship's layout and defenses. "We can't keep relying on EMPs," Daniel said. "If we want to end this, we need to hit them where it hurts, their power sources." General Bennett nodded. "Then let's finish this," she said firmly, "once and for all." As the team prepared for the final confrontation, Zixer watched from Central Park, its glowing eyes narrowing. Humanity had surprised them, but the Krylos were not used to losing. The final battle began at sunrise. Armed with weapons designed using the data recovered from the crashed scout ship, humanity launched a coordinated attack on the alien fleet. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers worked together, their efforts guided by Daniel, Lisa, Ethan, and General Bennett. The plan was simple but dangerous. Target the aliens' power sources and disable their ships permanently. If they succeeded, the Krylos would be stranded on Earth, with no way to escape. Zixer stood in Central Park, its metallic body gleaming under the morning light. Around it, smaller scout ships had begun to stir, their systems partially restored. The alien ambassador seemed calm, almost amused, as though it believed humanity's resistance was nothing more than a nuisance. But when the first wave of human forces arrived, Zixer's confidence faltered. General Bennett led the charge, her troops equipped with experimental energy rifles that could disrupt the aliens' technology. The weapons hummed with power as soldiers fired at the scout ships, causing them to shudder and collapse. One by one, the ships fell, their glowing cores exploding in bursts of blue light. The air crackled with energy, and the ground trembled beneath the force of the blasts. Lisa and Daniel watched from a safe distance, their hearts racing as they saw their plan come to life. "It's working," Lisa whispered, clutching Daniel's arm. "We're actually doing it." But Zixar wasn't ready to give up. With a loud roar, the alien ambassador activated a hidden device on its wrist, creating a shimmering energy shield around itself. "You cannot win," it said, its voice cold and defiant. "Even if you destroy our ships, the Krylos will return. Your planet is ours." Ethan frowned, studying the shield from behind cover. "That thing's protecting itself," he muttered. "We need to break through." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. "If we overload the shield with enough energy, it might collapse," he suggested. "But we'll need to get close." "I'll do it," Lisa said firmly, grabbing one of the energy rifles. Before anyone could stop her, she ran toward Zixar, dodging blasts of alien energy. Her heart pounded as she aimed the rifle at the shield, firing repeatedly. The weapon's power surged, and the shield flickered, struggling to hold. Zixar turned its glowing eyes toward her, its voice filled with anger. "You are brave, human," it growled. "But bravery will not save you." Lisa ignored the alien's words, focusing all her strength on breaking through the shield. Finally, with one last blast, the shield shattered, leaving Zixar exposed. The alien stumbled back, its metallic body sparking and smoking. Seeing their chance, General Bennett gave the order for the final assault. Soldiers surrounded Zixar, their weapons trained on the alien ambassador. "Surrender," Bennett demanded. "Leave Earth now or face destruction." For a moment, Zixar hesitated. Then, with a low growl, it raised its hands in defeat. "Very well," it said. "The Krylos will depart. But know this, your defiance will not be forgotten." As Zixar retreated to its damaged ship, the remaining alien vessels began to rise into the sky. One by one, they disappeared into the clouds, leaving Earth behind. The massive ship above the atmosphere followed, its engines sputtering as it limped away. When the last trace of the aliens vanished, the world erupted in cheers. People poured into the streets, celebrating their victory against impossible odds. But in the command center, the mood was quieter. Daniel, Lisa, Ethan, and General Bennett sat together, exhausted but relieved. "Is that it?" General Bennett asked, breaking the silence. She looked out the window at the clear blue sky, now free of the alien ship's shadow. "For now," Daniel replied with a small smile. "But next time, we'll be ready." Lisa nodded, leaning back in her chair. "We showed them what humans are made of," she said softly. "And we proved something important, that even the smallest spark can light a fire." As the team began planning Earth's recovery, they knew the fight had changed them forever. Humanity had faced its greatest threat, and won. But they also knew the universe was vast, and the Krylos were just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. For now, though, Earth was safe, and that was enough.